The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone!
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question and I listen more attentively?
Definitely not doing the Boppa Buzz today.
No, I don't want you to pass out. There will be no Boppa Bye.
And I must have missed something when you were just talking to me. I must have not been paying attention when you were busy slamming the door. I guess the things that pass for affection ain't the same as they were before. There must have been something in all of that nothing that dropped me like a stone to the floor. And I must have
Look at that.
something when you were just slamming the door.
How about that? All right, what do you think? Should we get this show on the road and just let Mel play for the whole show?
Driving me out of my mind.
We should probably do some show. I feel like if we let Mel go for the next 40 minutes, people might.
I don't know. I think they probably might even like that. I was looking at David Consoli's ratings.
Hey, now, we said you weren't going to do
I know.
Frightening me.
I'm already out of breath. So I was looking at David Consoli's ratings while I was gone. He did pretty good for his ratings.
Yeah, he did all
And
right.
his highest rated show was Jane and Zanny Pesci on YouTube.
Yeah.
Those numbers were unbelievable. I haven't seen YouTube numbers like that for a while. And on Facebook, his highest rated show was the one with Nick DiZoglio. One more Boppa Bye, you think, maybe?
If you think you got it in you.
I'm going to try. Ba-ba-ba-ba. All three Boppa Buys. How about that?
And he's still sitting.
That's proof that I'm getting better for sure. Still not at 100%, but I'm getting there.
There you go.
All right, hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan here with the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi atop Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. We've got a little bit of a hodgepodge show for you today. Maybe I should have come back like an extra. Maybe I should have taken an extra week off. But I've been so busy trying to catch up on things that I couldn't do while I was down, while I was in the hospital, and things were not going so good. And I think I've kind of overdid it a little bit. Yesterday I had breakfast with one of my friends at the north end of an airport, and then I had a lunch at 3 o'clock at Salvatore's, and then I went to TMF last night. And by the time I got home last night, I was like, oh my God, what the hell did I just do to my body? Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely paying for it today. I do want to thank Dave Id Consoli. Who, and by the way, he and other people keep asking me, why do I say it that way? Why do you say Dave? Why do you do the pause, Dave Id Consoli? And it's the same reason I say podcast, because when I have a hard time remembering something, if I say it in a funny way, or I drag it out, or I say it like a little differently, it's easy to remember. And when I don't say Dave Id with the pause, even when I'm like hanging out with him having a coffee or whatever, I've called him Dave like 3 times in a row. And then he corrects me and says David. So I say, okay, that's why I do the pause. And I do podcast because I did radio for 35 years. And my first 3 shows here at the podcast, I kept saying, welcome to the Paying Attention radio program. Because that's what I said instinctively for 35 years. So just say it a little differently. Just say it like maybe in a funny way or whatever. That's kind of like why I do that.
Because he doesn't like being called Dave. His name is Dave.
Yeah, he doesn't like being called Dave. And then his mom is like, well, does he not like you? Why does he say it that way? I'm like, so I can't win no matter what I freaking do. I can't win. Couple of announcements. Well, I want to thank, I wanted to thank Dave Id Consoli for filling in for me, doing a great job coordinating with you. I want to thank you, Chrissy, as well.
Oh, of course.
I was watching the podcast we did together last week, and I noticed there was a couple of questions that he asked me that I didn't answer. I started to answer and then I kind of went off on a tangent because my brain is just still kind of Swiss cheese up there a little bit, and I kind of lost where I was. So at some point I will, if anybody wants to email me or something, I'll answer those questions. I know he asked me about producing I produced the August edition of the Valley Patriot while I was in rehab. And I started to answer the question, and then I veered off onto a whole bunch of other things about potato chips and everything else. And that was pretty amazing. I know that like a lot of people were stunned by that. I think I was kind of stunned by it too, because it's 4:00 in the morning, and I'm in Hannah Dustin Rehab in Haverhill, and I've got what do they call it when you got more than one person from more than one line on the phone, like a conference call?
Oh yeah.
So you got like a conference call with. I've got a team of people in my office. It's 4 a.m. And I got a team of people in my office in North Andover. I have a team of people in Salisbury doing editing, and I've got another team of people in Methuen doing some writing and like doing just a quick research to make sure the stuff we have in the articles are actually accurate. And I'm in Hannah Dustin, and the nurses are coming in every 10 minutes. Tom, you want another cup of coffee? Is there anything we can get for you? Like, they were so helpful, and they were like, he's sitting there, he's putting a paper together, and they're all congregating outside my hospital bed door, my hospital room door, and they're like, I'm going to go check on so-and-so, but make sure you come back and check on him in 10 minutes because he likes to get up without asking. And so it was really like quite the endeavor. So I apologize, Dave, for not answering that question when you asked. I just want to thank TMF. I went to TMF last night. I kind of overdid it a little bit. I'm feeling it today. But it was so glad to be there. And being at TMF last night and being here right now, I can count as 2 of the things I never thought I'd do again. And so I kind of feel like every time I do something for the first time since I got out, I kind of feel like, yeah, like when things were really rough, these are some of the things that I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to get to do that again. No. So very grateful to be here. Want to also announce we've got a debate coming up. There's elections going on. You'd never know it, but there's elections going on in Methuen and Lawrence. There's also elections going on in Haverhill. I'm going to talk about all 3 of those very shortly. But first, I want to announce that on Thursday, November 2nd, make sure I do this right, which is Thursday, right? Do we have that right? Thursday, November 2nd. Mm-hmm. Here on the Paying Attention podcast, we're going to do a debate with the at-large city council candidates in Methuen. I've got confirmation from 3 of the 4 candidates, and we don't have a confirmation on the 4th just yet, but I kind of get a feeling when he finds out that the other 3 are coming, I'm pretty sure he'll be here. So, by the way, in my debates are real debates. My debates, no rules. None of this bullshit, 1 minute. What do you think about world peace? You have 1 minute. Like, that's not a debate. I don't know what that is. It's a forum. It's other things, but it's not a debate. My debates are real debates. I'm going to throw out a topic to all 4 of these candidates, and I'm going to let them discuss among themselves what they think about it. So I might throw out something. I'll just make up a topic like, there's still $4 million missing out of the school department, and at least 2 of you are incumbents who, when you first ran, said you were going to get to the bottom of that. What's the progress on that? And if you're not an incumbent, what do you think about the $4 million that's still missing out of the Lawrence School Department? So I may not ask that specific question, but I'm going to ask something like that. But then I'm going to throw it to them. I'm not going to interject unless somebody says something that's like monumentally, provably false. I'm not going to jump in because it's between them. I'm not the issue. They're the issue. And I want you to hear from the candidates what they think about things. They're the ones that have to get elected. They need your vote. I am looking for 1 business. I'll take 2, but I really want 1 business for $400 to sponsor the debate. And that's going to be above and beyond our regular sponsors. So our regular sponsors are automatically in. But because we're going to go more than an hour, I need to purchase another hour here at the studio, which is costing me money, and I don't want a debate to cost me money. So if you are a candidate, if you are a business in the Merrimack Valley, and you'd like to sponsor our debate, we will plaster your name all over Facebook. We will plaster your name throughout the whole show. With all of our other candidates and with all of our other businesses, sponsors. I'll get the word right eventually.
I think they get the gist.
We'll get there. But I did want to let you know, November 2nd at 2 o'clock here at the Paying Attention podcast. Methuen Day is Saturday, and I understand that you are playing at Methuen Day, but it's going to be really early, right?
Well, really early for you.
Right, really early for me.
Yes, the Bellas are performing on stage at 11:50 to 12:35. We have a 45-minute spot, so yeah, come on down and check us out. We're going to entertain you all with some beautiful music.
If I have my car, I'll be there. I'm going to drop my car off at Bobby Sheens. He's the only Sheens Towing is the only place that's allowed to touch my car. Yeah. And there's only one, and I learned a long time ago, if you find one mechanic and you just go to that one mechanic, you never have problems like if you go to different kinds of mechanics. You go to a different mechanic, they would say, well, the last guy that worked on this car did X, Y, Z, and he screwed it up, and now it's going to cost you more to fix it. But if you always go to one guy and one person that you trust and their crew, you never have that problem. You never have anybody say, like at one point, I think I went to Bobby and he did my brakes. And about 6 months later, I was having a problem with the brakes, and I brought it in, and he said, you're going to need new brakes. And I go, but you just did the brakes. And he looked it up, and he goes, no, you know what? You're right. Let's just fix this, and it's no problem, no cost, which is why I love going to Bobby Sheens. So I'm going to be dropping my car off, but if I get it back by Saturday morning, I will do that.
Awesome.
What else do we have? On October 19th, so I'm just going to jump around a little bit before we get to any topics, and I'm glad you pulled that up. That's a good reminder. On October 19th, the Psychological Center in Lawrence, which is the umbrella organization for the Daybreak Homeless Shelter, Pegasus House, and Women's View, is having their annual gala. Now, the tickets are $100 a ticket. So I know it's expensive. People are giving me a hard time about the cost. But she is honoring 6 or 7, I don't have them directly in front of me, people in the community, and I'm honored to be one of them. And we'd like to have as many people come as possible. I've got 7 sitting at my table right now. We're looking for 3 more. If you know me and you want to come, the tickets are $100. But also you should think about going to this anyway, because the money goes to a good place. It goes to help women in need. It goes to people who are homeless, people that are looking for life skill training. At Daybreak it's not just a place for the homeless to go sleep. At Daybreak, they do other things like life skills, and they teach them how to put money in the bank and how to balance a bank book and how to be financially responsible. And they help them get jobs. They help them get apartments if they can. And I guess they just got a grant to do community outreach, which is great because that's a big help for TMF. Because that's what TMF does. We do it for free, but she's going to have now a staff out there doing it, which, there's so many homeless people on the streets now because we're getting overflows now from Boston. And there's people coming up from Cambridge and Boston and the Boston area. So you can never have too many people out there doing outreach for the homeless and trying to get them off the streets, trying to get them clean, trying to get them into housing. I know that the old model was let's give them psychological counseling and try and get them clean before we find them a place to live, and then we house them. And I think we've learned over the last 15 years that model doesn't work. The real model needs to be you need to get them a roof over their head first, a stable place to live, some place where they don't have to pay electricity and heat and everything else as separate bills, something where everything's lumped into one. So they have one obligation to pay their rent, and it's one amount. And then from there, you get them the treatment that they need. So they have a stable place to go back to. Because one of the problems with the homeless and the addiction problem is people go into rehab, they get clean, but then they go back to the environment they were in when they were addicted. And as somebody who just recently quit smoking through, through no effort on my own, but I noticed that like when I have my worst cravings are when I jump in my car for the first time for the day. Like if I jump in my car, because what was the next thing that I did after I jumped in my car when I smoked? I'd light up a cigarette. As soon as I sit behind my desk with my coffee first thing in the morning, the first thing I would do is grab a cigarette. So a lot of addiction has to do with environment, and there's been tons of studies on this. And if you take someone's, and my sister Kiana will tell you for sure, she went to rehab 6 times and kept coming back to Lawrence and kept going back to using. And it wasn't until she removed herself from the environment of Lawrence that she was able to get clean and stay clean. And so anyways, that's Karina's event is October 19th. I think it's 2 weeks from today, actually, I think, right? Let me just pull that up, make sure people know what that is. Yeah, so it's 2 weeks from tonight. So if you'd like to come and sit at our table, it's $100. If you'd like to go anyway, please think about going, think about supporting Karina and the Psychological Center and the Daybreak Homeless Shelter and Pegasus House and Women's View, and they do a lot of great work, and we appreciate what they do. What else can we get to here? The Tomaselli sisters. Now, you guys might know these ladies. Tomaselli sisters from Salisbury. They're the ones that blew the lid off of the missing $9 million that Salisbury was charging the sewer ratepayers. The $80 million lie was a story that I wrote about maybe, I don't even know how many years ago. They know. They call me on the anniversary every year, and they're like, it's our anniversary. I think it was maybe 8 years ago, but maybe 10, I don't know. they testified before the House, and I'm sorry, before the Senate yesterday. Let me take a breath here and catch my thoughts. They testified before the Massachusetts Senate yesterday on a bill that they wrote. Great bill. I actually read it, and if I felt better, I would have gone and testified. Lawyers in Massachusetts, most people may not know this, but lawyers in Massachusetts are allowed to lie in court with immunity. So if you're a witness and you lie in court, it's called perjury. You can go to jail for that. But if you're the lawyer in court, you can lie all you want, and they've got immunity. And why is this? The reason for this is most of our legislators who make the laws are all lawyers, and they're the ones making the laws. So the Tomaselli sisters went into court over their sewer betterment 20 years ago, and the lawyer lied during the first hearing about the date of construction of a sewer project. Because it was never challenged at that first hearing, that fact then carried through to every single appeal and every single trial that had to do with that issue moving forward, and it was established as, in the eyes of the court, an established fact. So they couldn't later on, several times later on, they went into court and said, but that date is a lie. It was actually before that. It wasn't that date. And the judge kept overruling them because it was never challenged in the first place, the first lie. And so they went crazy. So lawyers could just lie in court? And they researched it and found out, in Massachusetts, lawyers have immunity from lying in court. So they wrote a bill to make it illegal. I can't even believe you have to do this, but they made a bill making it illegal. They wrote a bill to make it illegal for lawyers to lie in court. Now, who could possibly be against that, right? The legislature's against that. That's who's against it. The state reps and the state senators want no part of this bill. And I think it's getting a little traction from Jamie Eldridge, who, believe it or not, he's a communist. He's an outright communist. He's from Acton. And he's actually been on this show when I was doing radio. He came on the show a number of times. And we get along really well because he helped me sponsor my public records bill when I wrote the state's public records law, when I rewrote the state's public records law to put teeth into the law. He helped co-sponsor that. He actually added some amendments to it that made it even stronger than I wanted it to be. So even though he's a communist and I'm a right-wing lunatic, we actually get along really well. So when I saw that he was giving this bill a little traction and that he seemed like he was supporting this bill, it's Senate Bill 1131. So please call your state senator. Call Bruce Tarr if you live in the North Andover area. Call Barry Feingold if you live in Lawrence, North Andover, Andover. I think he also has Tewksbury and Dracut. If you're in Lowell, I'm not sure who your state senator is. It might be Tommy Golden, but I'm probably wrong about that. He might be a state rep. But whoever your state senator is in Lowell, please give your senator a call and tell them, listen, this is a no-brainer. Lawyers shouldn't be able to lie in court. I mean, if the witnesses can't lie and the witnesses can go to jail for lying in court, why are lawyers allowed to lie in court? That just makes total sense. All right, what else do we have here? Wow, I still got 20 minutes left. Thanks for coming, kids. Good night. Oh, we didn't even talk about our sponsors, so let's do that. Let's talk about our sponsors. The Paying Attention podcast is, well, you can really tell I'm struggling today, right? It's all right.
It's all right.
The McLennan Real Estate Century 21, I love that show that he and Sam did with Dave Consoli. Very, very informative. If you're thinking about buying property, if you're thinking of selling property in the Merrimack Valley, they went through the details of each community, which was great. The Zanny Pesci Law Office, and I'm going to keep calling it Pesci, even though technically it's supposed to be Pesh. Okay. Pesci's just too hard to say.
All right.
So just blame it on me. It's the Zanny Pesci Law Office, like Joe Pesci, right? He spelled his name the same way, so why are they calling it Pesh and he's calling it Pesci? I don't know.
Maybe he was doing it wrong.
Maybe, but I'm going to go with him because he's famous. Although Gina Zanny Pesci is the most beautiful woman alive, so how do you weigh that one out? I don't know.
There you go.
Marsan and Son Construction. Ronnie Marsan's been so good to me. I love that guy. If you have any construction needs before the snow falls, maybe you should give him a call now. You want to have your roof replaced. You need an extra addition put on your home. You want to turn that basement area into like maybe a little TV room, you know. Maybe you want to make a little sports room for you to watch football. Give Ronnie Marsan a call. EIS, Investigation and Gun Training. I don't give two shits what anyone thinks about Joe Solomon. I really don't. But when I was in a coma for 11 days or 9 days, or there's the dispute on over how many days, I'll just go with 9. He was by my side every day. And not only was he by my side every day, but he was making phone calls to help out with the newspaper. He was helping Nancy in anything that she needed, and she needed a lot because she did a lot for me while I was down.
She did.
So we want to thank EIS Investigation and Gun Training for continuing to support Baris Deli. Let's pull this up. This is our sandwich of the day for tomorrow. You guys are the only ones to get the exclusive on this. They won't post this on Facebook until tomorrow morning when they open. This is the chicken cutlet. It is topped with broccoli rabe. I don't know what rabe is, if I'm even saying it right, because I'm not a chef, but it's broccoli rabe. It looks like little broccoli pieces. Roasted red peppers, fresh mozzarella. I know. Look at the mozzarella on that. I don't know if you can zoom in, but just the mozzarella on that alone
makes, they can see it.
Yeah, it makes me want to go get that tomorrow morning. So if I have my car tomorrow morning, and maybe on my way to see Bobby Sheen, I'm gonna drop by Borelli's and get that because that looks really, really good. We want to thank Borelli's. I know that they're closing Stacks this week. I was very sad because we hadn't had a chance to get to Stacks. We had a group of people going to go.
I know.
And we never got a chance to do that. But we are going to send them to Par 28 because somebody posted on Facebook the day after I got out of the hospital a picture of pepperoni pizza. Now, most people who know me know I'm not a pizza guy. Like, if it's the only thing there and I'm at an event and I'm hungry, I'll have a slice of pizza. But I can't remember the last time I bought a delivery pizza or went somewhere and actively ordered a pizza.
Right.
Pizza's just not my thing. Being a bachelor, I've had so much pizza in my lifetime, and I'd be happy if I never had another pizza again. However, somebody posted on Facebook a picture of a pepperoni pizza from Par 28. It's Coco Ray's, I guess, not Coco Ray's, but Ray's over there. And it was well done. I like my pizza well done. And I usually like it with anchovy, but if I'm going to have a pizza. But I saw this, and I said to the person that was in my office at the time, I said, you know what? Are you hungry? And he said, yeah. I said, I'll give you the money if you run up to Par 28 and get a pizza, but I want it exactly like that picture. Show them the picture. Put it up on your phone. Just tell them I want that exact pizza. It was so freaking good that I thought, oh, my God, here's another thing. It's like the lamb chops at Sevmar. Here's another thing that I never thought I'd like, right? I'm not a pizza guy. And then I see the picture of it, and we got it one, and it was just freaking delicious. So thanks to everybody over at Pot 28 and Ray's. I also want to thank Tomo and Shaken Seafood. You want to try the kamikaze if you go to Tomo. If you go to Shaken Seafood, really your best bet is the shrimp. The scallops are a little small for my taste, but the shrimp is pretty good. I want to thank Clear Path for Veterans New England. The Doug Mercurio Law Office, I owe you a phone call, my friend. I will do that today. AFC Urgent Care. Had a nice lunch yesterday with Zaka, one of the owners over there, a nice guy. Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors. I noticed he kept throwing that in. Contractors. When he was on here, it was Pleasant Valley Contractors. So I apologize for not saying contractors, but it's Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, Pot 20. And a free shout-out to our good buddies at JG's Ice Cream because we just love those guys so much. And someday I'll tell you a story about how they saved my physical condition when I was in rehab. I'll tell it now since we have time.
Yeah.
So I was really constipated when I was in the hospital because of the drugs that they had me on.
Right.
And so they're giving me prune juice and everything else, and I'm not supposed to eat. I'm not supposed to have cream. Cream goes right through me. It's like a lactose intolerance, but it's not exactly lactose intolerant. And they're giving me prune juice and they're giving me laxatives, and nothing's working, and I'm in a lot of pain. And I'm like, can you guys at least give me some drugs so I'm not in pain until this gets resolved? And just as I said that, my friend Joe comes walking in with a strawberry frap from JG's. And he handed it to me, and within 10 minutes, I was perfectly fine.
There you go.
So now I'm doing 2 or 3 times a week. I now have a friend that's running to JG's for me to get me a strawberry frap. Okay. Probably oversharing here, but that's okay. All right, so we get our sponsors thanked. Let's see, we got 15 minutes left here. I told you this was going to be a hodgepodge day. Yeah. So let me make sure I get all this other stuff done first. Oh, Tina Conway. So Tina Conway is the chief of staff for Lawrence from Methuen Mayor Neil Perry, the guy who ran. And I hate to throw punches right out of the gate, right? But the guy who ran saying that the friends and family plan in Methuen are over. He ran against Jen Kinnan saying no more nepotism in Methuen. I give you my word, I'm not going to be hiring friends and family, not friends and family of myself, not friends and family of other counselors, not my friends. And all he really has done since he's been elected, I should say all he's done, because he has done some good things. But he certainly has, since he's become mayor, hired an awful lot of family members and friends of city councilors, people in his office, his own nurse, Jim McCarty's brother, who's not qualified to be an epidemiologist, but they made him an epidemiologist anyway. And now Tina Conway, his chief of staff, has gotten her son a job working for DPW. Got a couple of calls last night from people saying, Tom, if you're going to talk about this on your show, you're going to end up with egg on your face because he's only a temporary summer worker. I don't really give two shits if he's a temporary summer worker. This is the mayor that said he wasn't going to hire friends and family. And he's hired friends and family for the last 2 years. His first 2 years were great. And for the last 2 years, all he has done is appease the insiders, and he has become everything that he campaigned against. And at this point, I have to look back and say, maybe we would have been better off with Jen Canaan. And I know everybody's going to be shaking their head going, wait, did he just say that? Yeah, I just said that. Because if you're going to get the friends and family plan anyway, at least we had somebody that we could trust to do the right thing on the other issues. And it doesn't seem like we're really getting that. Now, again, I hate to throw punches right out of the gate because we had a little love fest going on when I was in the hospital and Neil was calling my family and all that. And I do appreciate all of that. But this has to do with his job. And my job is to criticize his job, or at least give him kudos when he's right. And he has done some good things. I'm not going to say he hasn't. He has done some good things. But holy crap, the people that he's hired since he's become mayor, it's like every time there's a spate of hiring, you've got to look through the list to see who everybody's related to. And whether it's the fire department, whether it's the police department, whether it's City Hall, again, the epidemiologist, now it's Tina Conway's son. And I don't care if it's temporary. That's taking a job away from another kid that probably could have wanted that job. And, the fact is, if that was Jana DiNatale and the mayor had offered her son the job as a temporary whatever in DPW, Jana would have said no, because Jana has integrity. Tina Conway, not so much. So, of course, she's there for herself. She's always been there for herself. I do apologize for saying nice things about her when she first got the job. I was trying to be polite. I always like to give everybody a chance. Like, even if it's somebody I don't like, somebody gets elected that when Obama got elected, I came in here and said, didn't vote for the guy, but I'm pulling for him. I hope that he can do a good job. Maybe he can surprise me. Maybe he can prove me wrong. And I always try to do that when someone I don't like gets elevated somewhere. And I did that when she first got the job as chief of staff for Neil Perry. But boy, I've certainly regretted it since, because the nightmare that she's created up in that office and in City Hall. I don't know anybody that likes her. Like, I've not found one person in City Hall who says, even privately, yeah, but you know what, I get along okay with her. Like, don't tell anybody, don't broadcast it, but I get along. I have not had that at least once. And while we're talking about Methuen, so let's just go through real quick, and I did have this pulled up, so here it is. There is an election coming up in Methuen. The election is in November. I think it's November. I'm going to guess it's November. No, that can't be right. And I can't get this up for some reason. Oh, there it is. So maybe not. So it looks like November 7th is going to be the election in Methuen and in Lawrence. And you wouldn't know that there's somebody challenging Neil Perry for the mayor's job. But there is. His name is Matthew Wicks. He's a veteran. We're going to try and get him on the show beforehand. I would schedule a debate, but I'm pretty sure Neil wouldn't come on. If he did, if he wants to reach out to me and say I'm willing to do a debate, I will do the same type of debate I do for everybody else. I remove myself. I throw the topic out, let them talk about it. But he would have to reach out to me because I'm not wasting my time if he's not showing up. Otherwise, we will have Matthew Wicks here. Something interesting did happen. And again, I hate to throw punches right out of the gate, but while I was in rehab, I think it was like my first day in rehab or my last day at Lawrence General, somebody sent me a link to the mayor's minutes. He used to do this little podcast after he left here. And he started out the podcast admitting out loud that he was doing the podcast because people in the community the rumors in the community were that he was not physically or psychologically capable of filling out his next term if he were to get reelected. And so he admitted that was the reason he was doing the podcast. Now, mind you, he's doing this podcast using city resources. So I'm not even going to say technically he was campaigning using city resources because there's no technically about it. He was using city resources to further his campaign. and admitted publicly on the show that he was using city resources to publicly campaign. That is a state violation. It certainly should be a city violation. If there's no city ordinance against that, there sure as hell should be. And so I have filed something with the Attorney General's office on that. I sent them a copy of it. I sent them a quick little transcript of what he said. And I'm not looking for a fine like I am at the Haverhill City Council. I'm looking for a $1,000 fine on each of them. I'm not looking for a fine for Neil. What I am looking for is a letter of reprimand so that he doesn't do it again. Because he shouldn't be using, as an incumbent, he shouldn't be using city resources to campaign because it's not fair to the guy that's not the mayor that doesn't have access to those resources. So unless he wants to allow Matthew Wicks to do a Mayor's Minutes show and fill in for him for the amount of time that he did that first show, which to me, if the Attorney General asks me on my complaint, I would say I'd be perfectly happy with that remedy rather than a fine or anything. But in the meantime, certainly a letter of reprimand. And by the way, where the hell, I almost swore again, but I am going to swear, where the fuck are the city council on this? If that was Jim Jajuga, they'd be screaming bloody murder in Methuen. They'd be screaming bloody murder. If that was Steve Zaney, they'd be screaming bloody murder. If Joe Solomon pulled something like that, they'd have pitchforks and they'd have torches outside City Hall demanding retribution. But Neil Perry does it, and he's giving all our friends and family jobs, so I guess that makes it okay. I guess in Methuen, that makes it fine. In the at-large race, you've got Dave Beauregard. He is a incumbent. You've got Nick DiZoglio, also an incumbent. I think Nick probably tops the ticket there because his name's DiZoglio. And Diana's doing such a great job at the state level. I think that elevates him up, even though they don't really get along all that well. But most people don't know that, so I think that helps him. Then you've got our girl Jana Zani Pesci, who's running for that seat, and a newcomer, Francisco Cirillo, who is chairman of the Greater Lawrence Technical School Committee. And if you saw some of the woke bullshit coming out of that institution just this year alone, you might want to have some questions for him. So if he shows up at the debate, and I'd love to have him here because I like him, that is going to be one of my questions to him if he shows up, because he is chairman of the Greater Lawrence Tech School Committee, and he is kind of responsible for what's going on there. In the East End, you've got 4 candidates. Believe it or not, you've got 4 candidates. And by the way, there was no primary because it's called the Incumbent Protection Act in Methuen. They don't hold primaries unless there's like a shitload of people to run that need to be eliminated, because they don't want anybody writing someone in a primary and giving an incumbent a challenge. So they don't have primaries in Methuen. That's one of the things that has to actually change. In the East End, you've got Nellie Soto, who is an independent businesswoman. I believe she's a lawyer. Former Methuen City Council Ron Marsan, our buddy, he was here the week before I went down. Bill Heffernan, who I've always liked, but has never really liked me all that much. But he is a puppet for Steve Saber, so if you love Steve Saber, you should be voting for him. And Ruby Poirot, who is Francisco Polino, State Rep Francisco Polino's wife. I really like her a lot. I was in his office. We have some time. I was in his office yelling at him about a month and a half ago about his position on the gun bill, the new gun bill that the Massachusetts legislature is trying to get through. And I said to him, how can you possibly be for this bill? In this bill has so many crazy things, like my landlord can determine if I can have a gun on the property. So and they have to put a sign out. So all the criminals have to do is drive around a neighborhood and look for the buildings that have a sign that say gun-free building, and they'll know which buildings to break into. Like, it's insane. Also in that bill is a provision that off-duty cops can't carry guns. Now, I can't even tell you the statistics on how many off-duty cops have stopped crimes or apprehended criminals in the commission of a crime, and our legislature wants to do away with that too. So I was in Francisco Polino's office one day, and he was all for this bill, and I'm giving him a really hard time. I'm yelling at him. We're yelling back and forth. We're throwing popcorn because we're friends. And his wife came in and sat down, and 5 minutes into our fight, she said, I agree with Tom. And I said, you should run for office. She said, funny you should ask, because I am running for office. I'm running in Methuen. So she's running in the East District of Methuen. In the Central District, oh, good, we look at 4 minutes left. In the Central District, Joel Ferretra, who is an incumbent, he's got one more term left if he wins. Joyce Campagnon, our girl, we love Joyce. We got to get her on. She's always great for ratings. Sharon Burchell, who's technically related to me, she's like a third cousin, twice removed, with some kind of marriage in between. And someone named Derek Jones, who has never reached out to me, so I have no idea who he is. Then you've got the West End District. You've got 2 candidates, running for 2 jobs. And if you had a primary, and if Methuen didn't cancel primaries, you could have had 2 other people do a write-in campaign in the primary, get 50 write-in votes, and there'd be 4 people running for 2 jobs on the November ballot, and you'd actually have a better choice. And the two people running would have to actually, answer questions, do a debate, maybe even knock on some doors. But when you have 2 people running for 2 seats, they don't have to tell you anything. They don't have to campaign. They don't have to answer questions. They don't have to debate. They don't have to sing for their supper. And as somebody who's in this business who enjoys making politicians sing for their supper, because that's kind of my job, I look at this and I say, shame on the people of Methuen. Shame on them for allowing their elected officials to not hold primaries, but shame on them even more, especially when you look at the Methuen School Committee race. You've got 5 people in the Methuen School Committee race running for 6 jobs. So you do have 1 write-in campaign, but here's the difference. A write-in in the primary, you only need 50 write-in votes to get your name on the ballot in November, and then you're equal with everyone else. If you're running a write-in campaign in a final election, you have to get more write-in votes than the next guy. So if Ken Willett, who's a former school board member and a former city councilor, if Ken Willett gets 25 write-in votes and the next person gets 18 write-in votes, 25 people choose who's on your school committee. If he gets like 100 write-in votes and the next person gets 80 write-in votes, that means 100 people are deciding who sits on your school committee. Don't the parents of Methuen give a shit? Like, don't you care about what's going on in your schools with your children? They're your children. And with all the shenanigans that have gone on in the schools over the last couple of years, nobody cares? Like, seriously? Wow. So I had a couple of other things I wanted to get to, but it looks like we're at the end of the show. Let's see, maybe I could do a quick hit on some of them. We'll talk about the Methuen election next week. Methuen Day, I want to remind you, is Saturday this week. What else do we have? So I never got to the political theater in Washington, but we'll talk about that another day. Let's see. And you're going to be at Methuen Day, right? You're going to be doing Bella's at 11:30?
No, at 11:50.
At 11:50.
So Methuen Day actually goes from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., so they're shutting down a couple of the streets. There's going to be stalls and vendors and food and all good stuff down there. And there's a stage, and the Bellas are performing from 11:50 to 12:35. So we'll be there for 45 minutes to give you guys some good music. So come on down and say hi.
Maybe I'll have somebody give me a ride to that if my car is at Bobby Sheens. So if you are a write-in candidate, I know that Ken Willett is a write-in candidate for school committee. I also know that there's another candidate because I saw something on Facebook, but they've not reached out to me. Please reach out to me. I'll try and get you on the show if I can. I'll at least certainly talk about you on the show. We'll get you into next Tuesday's paper. If you want to advertise in the Valley Patriot, I would need your advertisement by this weekend. We print on Monday night. I guess you can roll up Mel 28 seconds early. How about that?
Oh, no way.
How about that?
There we go.
I spent a lot of time watching CNN when I was in the hospital.
Oh, how was that?
You know, it just, you come to the conclusion after a while, especially with the Hunter Biden hearings. Then they went after Senator Menendez for bribery. And then there was January 6th fallout hearings and the McCarthy hearings. And you watch all this stuff and you just realize that if the people involved were reversed, like the Hunter Biden thing, if that was Barron Trump, every Republican would be making excuses for him. And every Democrat would be outraged. But because it's Hunter Biden, the Democrats are all making excuses for him, and the Republicans are all faking outrage. And after a while, you just sit there and go, they're all a bunch of fucking phonies, all of them. Because if you just reverse the people involved, everyone swaps sides and takes the exact opposite argument. It's political theater. So, like, I don't even know why we watch these things, because everything is scripted. Everybody knows what everyone's going to say, and nothing changes the outcome. I want to thank Dave Idkinsole for filling in. I want to thank all of our sponsors. I want to thank Chrissy for filling in, for helping him fill in. And it sounds like Melvin Taylor says you got to go home, so go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.